week, because they could manipulate that hash safety and clear him out of there. And so when I would play teams that I knew that was going to be part of their game plan in 2x2, we would always almost have to play quarters to the field, because now I can get the field safety matching the crosser, and just isolate out there to the field on number one and force them to make that long throw. But I don't feel like I see a lot of teams, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, here in Georgia right now, I don't feel like I see a lot of teams that'll give you 2x2 and bring cross into the boundary. It's always either 2-back or it's from a 3x1 bringing it back into the boundary. And the teams that do it out to 2x2, now the thing is, right, work slot fade with number 2 and show the key screen with number 1, I feel like, and do it off of play action, which is a good way to do it.
Pete, I'll bounce another idea out of you. With 2x2 is going 2x2 and then calling double post from the boundary side, push the back into the boundary and wheel him.
Yep.
And then bring a shallow underneath. And
flood it from the shallow and not the cross.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else doing anything like that? We don't go double post, but we've done some similar things.
I'll run some Y cross into the boundary. How do I share my screen?
Let me go ahead.
All right.
You should be good now.
All right. Let me get this bigger. Share screen. All right. Everybody can see this here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me get this top thing out of the way, because this way I can view it full screen. This is my spread Y cross. I know it's, you're bringing a guy into the boundary, and my read is going to go left to right here. So in this case is our base 2x2, go spread Y cross. So we'll tag, who we have coming on the cross. So the front side of the concept is always opposite of the tag. So we always do a more route by number 1 and a 10 to 12 speed out by number 2. So our tag is going to run the over route. Some have taught it, under Sam over Mike, under 1 over 2. Some have also taught it to, push vertical. I know it's kind of funny. I know Travis kind of talked a little bit on this, last week, and that's adjustments I've talked to him about, is taking Y in this case and being able to push, Y vertical to get that separation, to step on his toes and work across the field. So depending on what the boundary safety does, to be able to open up that window, hopefully pulling the mic out with the tailback swinging to the field. But for us is, we'll peek the more route. If we like the matchup, we'll go ahead and take it. If not, we bang a post route or dig with a lot coming out of the boundary. So that kind of helps us on why we want to stem that thing inside hard for 2 steps, because that'll also help us set up our mesh, help set up the shallow cross, because he's getting that constant inside release every single time. Then we're going to push vertical and we're going to roll into it. It doesn't matter what the coverage is. We're going to roll 10 to 12 on our speed out to help do that on the Y cross.
What's your footwork for your quarterback there?
The quarterback here on this, he's got a 3-step drop. So, his mandatory outside release is only live versus man.
Right.
If it's man versus man, that's the only time that it's live, or if he has favorable leverage. If not, he's gonna read 1, 2, 3, left or right. Check down 4, and we only have 1 hot to the field on this. But he's taking a quick, really it's a quick 3, 1 big, 2 small, stand tall in the pocket, deliver the ball. By the time he gets that 3rd step in the ground, in reality, because it's a quick 3, but my guys aren't in a hurry.
Okay.
All right. So it's and I use the term quick 3 because it's 1 big, 2 small, and we're standing tall. We're not taking a hitch. If I say big 3, then we're going to take our 3-step drop, and then we're going to take a hitch in the pocket on our read and be able to deliver. But here we're just taking a regular 3-step drop, and we're going to stand tall in the pocket. and make sure we make our reads, left to right.
I've never used the 10, 12-yard speed out on cross. I've always used the traditional, we always called it a grab route, But I know a lot of guys have gone to that. How long have you been using that deeper out route?
I've been using this, this past season because I was coaching college ball, so I didn't call my offense. But other than that, I've been doing it for about 3 years. I've been using it. And the reason I did that is because I had some at A is I usually kind of put my scat back, type slots. My Ys were always kind of my bigger body guys. And with us, crossing so much on our mesh and hitting the shallow and getting those guys across on the stem vertical on the hash on our 4-vert release, those guys kind of have a little bit more wiggle just while we were able to stem it. Because if we do that, a lot of times, a lot of guys like to try to wall number 2. So
Yep.
Whenever they go to wall and we release inside, we're able to get vertical out of it. And then we're able to run that speed out to be able to give us more grass on when we stem it inside. So just, because based off of high school splits, between the hash and the sideline and try to make that adjustment, it's an easy way for them guys to make that adjustment and getting where we need to go.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense.
So it's just, all I did was just flip it, to the field, however you want to call it. Just out of different formations, same deal.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate that, Coach. I like it. Wes, you got something cooking over there?
We do this. We only do this against 4-2-5 teams, okay? Because we can jack where they put their extra linebacker, their down safety, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to motion. If we're on the hash, we're going to get them to put their extra guy over here. We're going to motion into the boundary, and because we run a lot of switch against 4-2-5 against the pistol, the multi-coverage side. Well, we'll also run, and we just call it switch out. And so we're going to motion over. He's going to go and bang. This guy is really not in the route.
Right.
He's going in there to bang the inside linebacker to make sure that he doesn't get out underneath the out route. And we're just going to push up. It's going to look like switch. Number two cannot stop. And when we normally allow number 1, when he pushes inside, we're going to read off the safety. If the safety's high on top of it, we're going to shut it down and set inside. Well, when we go switch out, he's going to push it up, set it down, and break outside because those bastards want to start setting inside and forcing you on that in cut. And the only reason this guy the motion guy would ever get the ball is if just, somebody just comes Scott-ass free. You can go to him late, but this is just another way for us to get the ball in this same, 10 to 12 yard area. And now, and we have a little bit more space than y'all do because of the narrower hashes, but we've had, it's easy, and it's something that we can roll out of bed at 3 in the morning and hit if we need to.
It's a nice way to protect your switch route.
Yes.
And still attack the boundary. Yeah. So when you run the switch normally, is it like it's the same read where he's got the chance to stay up the hash or snap it across and go flat to the inside?
No, we will only break it flat inside. Now this goes back to 1988 University of Houston run and shoot rules. Okay. The only time we ever break flat is if it's man coverage.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're either going to keep running or shut it down.
Okay.
And same thing with number 2 up the bottom of the numbers. If he gets 12, and number 2 switching, he's at 10 to 12. Number 1, he has 12 to 15 to make their decisions. If the roof is closed, shut it down. Then number 2 gets out on the edge. Number 1 gets in the void, and we throw it to one of them.
It's nice because either way, that boundary safety's got to protect the hash right there when you're showing him so much switch.
And if you hit, if this is their answer, and because if they want to chase, if they're going to start spinning safeties down into the boundary, we're fixing to go screw them up to the field.
Yep.
They can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, they can, but they're going to do it about once or twice. Coach Fields is going to hit them on a seam, go throw the switch for a 50-yard touchdown. Our quarterback can't throw it that far. So, but we can hurt them with stuff like this. And it's very simple. If if they want to, if that guy's involved in a lot of their sons, we play one team in our district that really likes to bring that guy into the boundary, whether they walk him down or whatever, then screw the motion. You don't need it anymore because he's going to screw himself. And now that forces him to stay over here even more. But that's just one little thing that we do. I'll show you another one that we don't do, but I watched a team that we play just beat us to death with 2 years ago. I mean, and I still not sure how you stop it. You guys familiar with the circle route? And they actually would put 3 into the boundary. And it's just everybody's chasing a tail. He runs off. He gets out on the edge at 12 to 15, and he gets out there at about 6 to 8. And shit, you can't cover them all.
It's old school, like veer offense. I mean, they're running the follow route. It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the first one we do, that's one that like I said, I watched a team we play just smack us in the lips with it about 9 times in a game, and we ain't stopped that middle throw yet.
Well, I mean, hell, Liam, you spent time in Florida, and Dub, you were down there. And I mean, Naples used to run freaking follow off of their split back veer play action. They won on the vertical too. They still do. They had 2 on the follow. They get a back out late in the flat, and it's that middle guy he gets lost.
And then they'll invert it, and they'll send the back deep and have that other dude cut short. Oh, it's vicious.
Build us some good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually run it. I got a clip right here if you want to see it.
Yeah, let me figure out.
Pete, we ran that in 03 at Sprayberry out of the wing.
There you go. All right, who said they had a clip?
I do. Ben.
All right, Ben, let me get back. There we go. Yeah. All right, and hold up. I think I hit the wrong button. And there you go. You should be good. Share.
Yeah, so we put this in about week 6 because our quarterback was not very good at seeing the whole field. So we started rolling out and running flood. And so we actually put this in as kind of like a counter to help us with our flood. Yeah, I know it's to the field, but we did it to the boundary too. You're going to see he comes wide open. And that was our go-to play when the end of the year. We'd run that all the time. He's just kind of sitting there following with number 3 to the flat and then number 2.
Share it again, Coach.
You guys share your screen
You
with
gotta
us.
share your screen, bud.
Yeah, it started to, and then I think it canceled out.
Yeah, let me see.
They don't want you to do it. Keep your secrets to yourself.
We're good. Can you see it now?
No. Is it not letting you?
There it is.
There we go. Now it's going, Ben.
All right, good. My fault. All right, so I was saying we ran flood a lot because, like I said, our quarterback – we got rid of all of our field stuff because our quarterback wasn't very good at it. So we started running flood, and this was kind of like our counter to it.
Settles right in that hole.
Yeah, it just settles. He's kind of running that wheel, settling in right there, but we actually do it with number 1 sitting in the hole instead of number 2.
Okay, so number 2 is running the wheel. Number 1 essentially is running the curl.
Yeah,
Yeah, flat curl rail.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You're in the wing tee. That's the best sprint out bootleg pass you can ever throw.
Yeah,
Hey, don't cuss on here.
yeah.
Well, there's probably only 4 or 5 of us that can draw up wing tee plays, so we're okay.
Oh.
I can.
Yeah.
I
So I
can't.
ran in high school.
After I got done running in high school, that was the last I wanted to see of it.
I was just fixing to say we ran it for 1 season in high school, and I can draw up what we did. I can promise you that.
And then the other, this is I'm sure you guys do this too, but this is out of 2 back. I know it's to the field, but we do it to the boundary too. I just couldn't find our clip of it right now.
Wins FIB.
All right, so we're going to run the back is going to be our shallow, but number 2 is going to kind of run that Y cross coming back across the field as well. We play action off of it. I'm sure you guys do that stuff too. That was just a different way of getting into a true flood concept.
It's
into
funny you
it.
share that because actually that's kind of something I wanted to share here just a second off of our counter play action.
Oh, cool. All right, stop sharing.
All right, stop sharing. BJ, I'm gonna go ahead and give you. You should be
All right.
good.
All right, let's share screen. Let me get here. Boom. Share this. View full screen. Once again. All right, can everybody see the Twins in Nebraska?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is another form of cross that we run, and we'll run it, like you said, into the boundary to give a flood type look. But we will do this strictly off of counter play action. You guys had heard Brent Dearman say he gives his quarterbacks basically a toolbox of things to do. Well, this is one of those things in the toolbox, but it's actually a call for us. So anytime that we run Nebraska, it's Baltimore protection. So we're giving that counter action, pulling the guard to the field. Tailback's going to replace. So number one in the boundary, X, he's going to push vertical. All right, and he's going to read that free safety at 15 yards. If the safety squats or jumps the climb, all right, he's going to break that thing off and he's going to run it to a post. So if he jumps that crosser, we're going to break it to a post and we're just going to dump it right over his head on that first read. All right. If the safety, if he stays deep, all right, and he does not take that crossing route, we're just going to continue to stay vertical on our line. All right. And we're going to be on the numbers no wider than -2, all right, towards the sideline, because we want to be able to have enough space to throw that thing here on the sideline. All right, so the quarterback is going to open up, and it's just a token play action. Just stick the ball out, shoulder rock, all right, and then we're going to take our 3-step drop. All right, he's going to read that free side, the free safety, all right, versus single high, all right, or the play side safety versus double high. So free safety, all right, if it's any type of one shell, and we're going to read essentially the boundary safety with any type of 2-shell look. All right, his progression, he's going to go one in the boundary, and then the Y is going to take his best release between the guard and tackle. All right, he can even chip on his way out, releasing flat. All right, just to kind of to help with the play action in case we get any type of pressure. And then the quarterback's going to go through his progression, reading that safety, seeing what he does, and that's gonna play into our reads, what we do with our Hoss stuff, with our slot fade, to our hitch.
Yep.
So a lot, and this is the thing too, is we're gonna run kick, out of this, with our counter, pulling the guard and pulling the Y coming back across. So with the tailback, when we see that action, and then we're running kick, if they're not going to honor it, then there ain't no sense in us throwing it. We're going to hand it off. Now Y is just going to follow the guard. He's going to get full feel as the guard kicks on regular, kick counter going to the field.
So from a protection standpoint there, Coach, let's say it's an odd front, right? And tackle probably locks on the end. The stand-up off the outside, if he's showing edge pressure, is the Y going to take him and let the tackle replace into B-gap for the guard?
All right. So I knew I was probably going to get some type of question. So here's all of our pass, my pass pro, all right, versus all of your different type of fronts. All right. Now, obviously, it's a little flipped here. All right. So tailback is going to read the mic to anything outside.
Okay.
All right. Versus even front, whether if it's over or under. All right. When now I call a 30, anytime that you basically, get a 3-4, got your 33 stack, and then your bare front. So he's going to take the first threat that's going to come outside of the center. Essentially, we're going to lock the tackle on the end, which is why when we're in that twin set, the Y can help chip or help pick up anything that's coming. But in reality, if anything blitzes other than the mic in this case, so let's say if we're in an even front here, and let me go back there. All right, and the mic blitzes on this. All right, if we were in twins and the Y was released flat, well, the tailback should be picking up the mic. if the Mike and Sam comes, then Y is going to be the flat guy. He's going to be the hot into the boundary.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
all right. So in this case here, if we had the Mike, if Mike comes, tailback would pick him up. If there's anything outside of that comes, Y essentially is going to chip as he releases, and we're just going to dump it to him into the flats. So
Yeah.
if we get any field pressure, this is why he stems flat. Anything that comes, we're just going to hit him in stride, let him catch it, and get vertical.
Yeah, I like it.
A lot of the drop back and stuff that I have will only have one hot read that's in there. But anytime that we do, the counter action, anything like this, we have to have 2 hots built in, because normally we're probably going to run this on some type of second and long, third and medium type.
Now, Coach, will y'all do pretty much the opposite with Y and A? Will you send Y vert and A drag? Just playing devil's advocate here. I can see it both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I could, put that in there, but, we'll use motion with Y a lot, bringing him hip motion, or, we'll hop him in, we'll hot him out, just to kind of keep the defense in balance. So if they do have a blitz in, so we could have Y, him be out here and us motion him inside, or we'll, line him to the field, essentially give a 3-by-1 look. And we'll just – and that's the thing is we'll use a lot of, pre-snap motion just to kind of dictate and get them to back off or have to change a call. And by the time they're trying to make a call, hey, we're snapping the ball, and, they're going to have to get out of their blitz.
Right.
Or if they do come, then they're not going to have an answer to where, the hot is, whether it's in the boundary or to the field.
Right. We were just
You write
talking
all that down, Travis?
We were talking wing T there for a minute. I saw 651 pop coming real quick for any of you guys who remember that. So
yeah. So I mean, we'll have some of that stuff in there, and but a lot of that will come off of regular counter action, off a regular counter, and then running kick with that in there, and then with the power read with the dash and bash and all that, and I could sit here and talk the releases of Y. With one play for 3 hours, which just helps add a dynamic, especially with the guy that I got back there, at Y right now. It's an absolute stud. So that kind of helps.
No doubt. Yeah, I don't know if I have one this year, and it's driving me nuts. So that's good stuff. Anybody else got anything? I know we got some dudes on here that can dial it up.
Mueller.
So here we go.
I got a couple things, Coach.
All right. Who was that real quick?
Coach O.
Coach Owens, I got you, babe. Let me make you. All right. Made you a co-host, so you were free to share.
All right, cool. All right, where's that share screen at?
Should be down at the bottom.
All right. I did a couple different things. One's kind of like what Coach just showed. Is that up?
Yeah, it's up. Or the video's not up yet, but we can see your computer screen.
All right, hold on.
May have to reshare and show that screen.
Yeah. Got it down?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is so here we run what we call Zora, which is just inside zone. We go out of trips bunch, kind of like what Coach just showed. But we bring this guy back underneath with it.
Yep.
Blood into the boundary, and we did that a lot last year because we ran zone so much. But then I also have one where we go off our run game, and this was when hold on. This would have been when I was at Westlake. Is it up?
I got to reshare again,
Folder.
Coach. Yes, the folder.
All right. All right.
Clean shaven, PJ.
I appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
There we
This
go.
one, when I was at Westlake, we ran a lot of double tight, and then we go what I call rhino. We faked the stretch into the boundary with it, and this was in the playoffs, first round. We flood back.
Bring the naked back to the field.
Yeah, we hit a lot of times with that. That was a kid that played linebacker actually. But that's what we do a lot of. But then, like I said, when I got to Griffin, it was more so the first clip that I showed.
So when you on the first clip, Coach, and you're in that bunch, do you take the point man and clear him vertical and bring the outside receiver underneath on the cross?
I usually don't, just because this year my point man was a little more fearless. So my point man was the one that would go across. My one on that one, he was just a speed guy, so we let him take the top off.
Yep. I like it. Dub, I think you said you got something. I'm going to make you a co-host as well. So you are ready to rock whenever, brother.
Am I missing his audio?
Yeah, Dub, we can't hear you. You may be on mute. See your screen.
You got me now.
Yes, sir.
This is just another variation, like everybody's talked about, a Y cross. I think one of the things I like about this one, I got this from a coach at State College about 10 years ago, and he got it from Mike Bellotti when he was at Oregon, and they call it slash, and basically it's just a variation of Y cross that everybody here has kind of shown. Some of the things that we like about it is I think when you're on a high school hash, I don't know what kind of hash marks you guys play on. We play in college stadiums sometimes, and so we'll get the college hash, and I think you get the benefit of the boundary space on a college field is a lot more favorable. So when we're on a high school hash, we kind of change up that boundary smash concept that we run initially. So if you look there, we call that bow, and essentially the landmarks for the receivers, and it's obviously run out of 2x2. We primarily do it out of 11 personnel. And our tight ends usually attached, and we can stand them up or flex them out a little bit. But we like it out of 11 personnel. We call this bow, and the landmarks for the routes are 7x1 for the Z. So he's pushing 7 yards vertical, 1 yard from the sideline. On a high school hash, you might have to shorten that to 5 just to get it to timeout and create more space. And then the tight end's running 15x5. He's going 15 yards, 5 yards from the sideline. So we call that bow. It's a boundary kind of smash variation concept. And so that's our rhythm side. We're going to look at that first. And the stem of the route, if you're getting – so a lot of times we'll get some two read. We'll get some soft quarters out there. Sometimes we'll just go split field coverage and play zero. But the stem of this tight end's kind of running right at that corner. So as that corner bails and retreats, we're kind of using that tight end to get in his way so we can just, bang that extended, outside hitch right there to the Z receiver. That's kind of where we start with the progression. And we're going to try to make a living on that as best we can until they start to change. We'll start to get a hard cover too. Some of the things that we'll see there is we'll get a hard corner and get the safety over the top trying to cap the 15x5. And that's when we kind of progress and reset to the best read route.
And this is kind of how, I've played around. I think, was it BJ's talking about he was talking about, working with some more vertical stems. And man, I've played around with all this stuff. And I think kind of where we're at now is we're going to teach this year, and we teach our X and H receiver to the field to get what we call a slash split. So their splits are important to the play. We tell our H receiver to get between the hash and the tackle when we're on the left hash. And we try to shorten that to get over across to the boundary hash as fast as we can. And then we help to have our X receiver split the difference between numbers and hash. We call that a slash split. And that sets up, if we start to get some like boundary cloud or any kind of boundary rotation, we'll come back to field flood off of that same split and create space there. But what we tell the H is we give them kind of different angles of breaks on the cross based on the coverage. And we run this a lot. To me, this is a first and second down play call. It's really not a third down play call. And I feel like BJ was saying, I feel this is a play action play. It's very hard. Just the way I've run, in my experience, to run this as a straight drop back. It's just, when they drop 7 and 8, just makes it more difficult. But we like to use play action. So I think pulling the guard against certain fronts is better. This is the kind of play action we use, the protection we use in an odd front. And this is off a RPO type of run we call. This is something, if you guys, I'm sure you've seen it, Oregon used to make a living with Chip Kelly on their outside zone RPO, where they would have the center lock on the nose, and they would essentially run outside zone from the center over to the right, and then the backside left guard and tackle would block out on 1 and 2. So it's a great versus odd front. You're reading the inside backer, and then you can attach whatever you want, whether you run it boundary or field, and put that guy in bind. But when we want the lineman to stay behind the line and not get downfield, we'll make a stay call. So we call that Orca stay. And so, essentially, if this buck comes, we're going to have to change the protection we use, so we can just go a full slide. But when we start out, we're going to just mesh across, give the illusion that we're running outside zone or some sort of bash scheme, and we're trying to get these linebackers to plug, and then we're obviously going to reset back to the best read, which would be the cross route. So if we're getting a one high, getting kind of rotation like cover 3 or rip Liz, we're going to have that H receiver after his third step on that vertical stem. He's got to get over that dog, and he's going to snap. It's going to be anywhere from 10 to 12 yard over drag. And if we get any kind of split field coverage like cover 40, we're gonna break it to the opposite hash at 15. And if we get like a standard just cover 2 or cover 8 or cover 4, we're gonna split that middle of the field tube and just get vertical. So that's kind of how we tell our quarterback to progress through it. Is we're gonna pre-snap this rhythm side bow, and he's gonna look at it on the drop. He can stay on it till his third step, or he can get off of it quicker based on how these defenders are capping it. And then he's going to reset quick, and he's going to kind of have to predetermine, the best read route, whether it's the cross or this, what we call knife route. In the knife route, it's a kind of, he pushes vertical for 3 steps. He's going to 15 on the hash. So both these guys' landmarks are 15 on each hash. And his rule is he cannot cross the hash. So if he gets a soft corner, and for us, we use the hard deck to determine that. So if the corner's above the hard deck, that's a soft corner. We're gonna dagger or dig this up at 15 yards. So it's just a standard curl. And then if we get a hard corner, he's below the hard deck, we're going to go ahead and push this vertical at 15 yards through the hash. And so we need time for this to set up. We got to create a stretch on this free safety and corner, so we have to reset to this. And that's kind of how we teach it. And then obviously the back is our rush route for any kind of hot after the fake. So, again, not nothing, earth-shattering there. It's all the same stuff that everybody here has kind of presented. But it's a real good play. And I think, this bow concept's been really good to us. Just to create a different type of smash, flavor to that boundary side, particularly if you're on a high school hash.
The interesting thing there, like going back to what you said and what BJ said, like it's really about what you want to get out of it, right? If the goal is truly to flood the boundary, it as a drop back, there's ways to manipulate and work that crossing route. But I know for us last year, our number one boundary flood concept was 2x2 bunch. And we called it cross, but we weren't calling it to hit the cross. We were calling it to hit this backside, and we just posted it. And we did it from compressed sets, 2x2, so that we could create leverage on the corner. He had to play outside leverage when, to the field. And so we would run right at his outside hip, get him to open, and then we'd knife back inside and post it. And so it was a third down call for us because we felt like we could create easy leverage and build that in as our read route. But using it as play action, using it as a first or second down call, I think makes a lot of sense. And the way that you window dress it into the boundary, I do think, it opens up a lot of windows. Because that was one of the things I was going to ask guys was from a pro style background. If any of you remember old school, route tree, they used to call it 866, where in a pro style formation, they would post that boundary formation to the field, post the boundary receiver, then with the tight end and the split end working dig routes at different levels, coming back into the boundary off of play action was always a good shot play. Is I've almost gotten to the point where a 3 vertical concept or a double post concept is more effective to me than a traditional Y cross concept. Does anybody else feel the same way?
Coach, I had a question.
All right.
For Coach Maddox. Coach Maddox, good explanation. This is Coach Winchell. I got a question. Just to clarify, this play action, you said this is not a good third down call because it's play action and they usually sending a blitz. That's why you're saying that it's not.
I think it's just your preference and what you're seeing in your league. I just think in my experience, the schools that we played, I haven't had as much success on third down. It doesn't mean I'll run it on third down. I just think the Y cross play in itself is play action. Makes that cross route a lot more open. Mm-hmm. And so I just think understand when I first started coaching this stuff, I just really didn't understand that certain concepts fit better in the play action bucket versus just a standard drop back just by the stretches and the route design. So I'm not saying you don't do it on third down. I think it just helps the Y cross pop a little faster and more clean for the quarterback. And I think, like BJ was, he uses, the pull and stuff. I think if you're doing a lot of pull and counter stuff, I think, use it off that. If you do a lot of, more zone RPOs or outside zone, use it, decide whatever play action you want to use based on what your core runs are and use it as a counter.
Do you use this as a base, like run play for you too? I mean, with the slash action with the offensive line, or do you only do it when you run this play?
No, we have to have some runs that we're going to marry up with this. So we do some bash stuff. We do, with our quarterback that give the same action. So we'll do like, BJ will do like this. If we were running like inside zone, left, and then the tailback is running, bash right. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And I mean, there's some things that we'll do. So we want to marry it up with that. Now you can flip this whole thing and run it, like I forget, somebody was talking about running, this with the Y and the Z, running the axe and the knife, and then you could run bow to the field or whatever. If we ran to the field, we just run a traditional smash concept, and you could flip this whole thing and fake the back to the tight end side. And we do a lot of runs to the tight end. So you can flip this and even like, I forget who was saying, wheel the back and do, your axe, your knife and your wheel. I mean, double post or Y cross, however you run it, wheel with the tailback to the boundary is a staple. I mean, I think that should be a staple for everybody. That's tough. But I think like Pete was talking about, I think, defenses, if you listen, they're all about divider rules now. If you listen to DCs, they're all talking about, with their corners, playing divider rules. And I'm sure you guys have heard that and know what that means. But I think you got to learn how to adjust the splits of your outside guys to use those rules against them. So what I mean by that, I think, Pete, you were kind of alluding to that, like, by bringing this X split in, that corner's forced to play outside leverage, or else you're going to throw a hitch or a quick out or whatever, outside all day. So I think that's another thing that I didn't do a good job of early on, is learning how to adjust my splits and use their leverage rules against them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think whether you do it by formation tag or whether guys have to learn it by play call, there's definitely, having worked the other side of the ball, there's definitely a point where it becomes very obvious what's coming. So you have to make sure when you're teaching these split rules, that you have multiple things off the same splits, right? But that's the easiest way to attack leverage on guys right now, no question. So let me ask this, because I'm with you. I've long felt like Y cross was the best, better off play action. So I know one thing that a lot of guys are doing now is And I'm just going to, Dub, leave your screen up, and I'm going to, I think there's the fancy Telestrate, if I can figure out and be smart enough how to use it. That they may have turned that option off now. But one of the things that I know a lot of guys are doing now is they're putting a shallow underneath the crossing route. And instead of running true shallow, old school air raid shallow, is there, whether it's 2x2, instead of play action to try and affect the backers, they're putting so here, take the Z, get him vertical, put the Y on the shallow, let H run the cross, or 3x1, let the shallow, instead of working traditional drive, let the shallow come underneath the cross. Because this is one of the concepts that, that you just showed the Panther real quick was that's one of the things we've done. But this is another way I know a lot of teams are doing it like you've got right there to try and protect it.
Yeah, I think Coach was asking a while ago, third down. I think if it's a third down call, I'm going more like you said, Pete, like double post with the corner shallow.
Yep.
So this is less of a play action. You can free release your back however you want. I mean, I really, when you look at our backs, when we do our install and our plays, you really can't. I mean, we game plan how we use our backs in the concepts based on, tendencies and what the defense is doing. But I think, to me, I think, to kind of answer your question, for me, it's slash on first and second down, and it's our double post shallow concept on third. I think that's a good rule of kind of a baseline to think about.
The shallow gives you the easy out if they're bringing pressure, but it also helps control the backers and open up those intermediate throws behind them.
Yeah, I tell you one thing, Pete. We call this. This is a good one on the backside on this corner. We call it a croc route, and it's a corner route.
Mm-hmm.
And if that tight end, if that ball's not in the air when he comes out of his break, when he gets to 15, he's going to foot fire and he's going to work that comeback stem. And that's our. I mean, I can't tell you how many third downs we've converted. Our quarterback's base progression, he's going to rhythm the glance, read the post, and as we run it, we stem it like a corner post there, and then rush the shallow. And we teach our quarterback, hey, if you go through your progression, everything's capped, we want to default backdoor B gap escape because our eyes are the field, so we're getting flow. And we're looking to run for the first down, and we're looking to bang that croc route for the first down. And we convert a ton of 3rd and 10s, okay, on banging that and practicing that. So that's a good way to put a full field stretch. And I think practicing your gap escapes, on your concepts, particularly in your third downs, especially when teams are going to play more of a drop 8 instead of bringing pressure. I think you got to put that in your practice plan and really make that a part of your teaching if you're not already doing that. You guys are probably doing that. But
get the quarterback out and show him where his releases are.
And let those, and every receiver knows that, I'm just the backside guy. Well, so now they're not going to run hard. Well, now we get everybody is going hard because they know, whether they get the ball is predicated on just how the play matures, but there is no backside receivers in our concepts. It's all based on what the defense does.
Yeah, we're offensive staff is meeting tomorrow to actually talk about essentially this exact concept. Because it fits into what we do. And the difference for us last year was we would actually – Z would come down, cut a split, and run a speed out into the boundary, and then we would release the tailback to the field typically. But, one of the ways that we can change it obviously is this exact – send Z on the cruise route and then, distribute the back to the boundary.
Yeah, again, splits are critical to this, right? I mean, you got to reduce if you're playing divider rules, because if you get the X out, to a certain width, that they're going to play divider technique with that corner to try to take away the post. So I think you got to try to find in a game, whether it's if you can't find it on film, find the game. Okay, what's a breaking point? At what point are they going to change your leverage based on your split, so you can put stress on the safety.
And that's, I'm with you. And the other thing that we'll do, because again, if we get teams that are going to play match, right, and that's whether they're playing cover 4, calling it quarters, whatever, but they're matching things at a certain depth, or they're straight up playing some version of man. It's so easy now that I finally found the telestration to go ahead and build in these switches. Where now, you're working something like this, but those you force them to switch things and alert things when you compress compress the formations. And now if the safety comes off on the dig, the corner playing outside leverage, it's having to protect that outside route. This route space is completely uncapped now. And if the safety stays high to take away the post, the dig route, you're counting on the underneath player, which you're able to control either with a back or with the shallow route. That's another way that we'll use our boundary flood concepts in what we do to try and control that. So that's good stuff, Coach.
I got some post wheel stuff. I know you mentioned that to the boundary. If you want to see that.
Yeah, PJ, let's see. Coach, if you will stop share, and then let me find you, PJ. All right, go ahead, my friend.
All right. Let's go. So we're a big 11 personnel team. Tight end off the ball. We don't do a lot of attached tight end. We might this year because I think we got the guy who can do it. But this is just simple post wheel to the boundary, okay, off of what we call phony motion. We do some jet sweeps, enough to keep people honest to that motion. But what we're trying to do here versus a 4-down team is get that safety to roll into the boundary and put the corner in the bind. Is he going to squeeze the post, or is he going to try to midpoint, like Coach is saying, play to the divide and be able to come off on the wheel? And I'll show you a clip versus McEachern. Their corner could do it. It was very impressive. Right here, what you'll see is number one, the boundary down here is on the post. The tight end right there behind the tackle, he's on the wheel. And then the motion guys are checked down. So from the quarterback, we're trying to bang that post if it's there. If the corner squeezes, we're peeking at the wheel to the check down. So that, of course, I'll show you the clip that works perfectly the first time.
That's become our favorite way to boundary flood too, PJ.
Yeah.
Whether it's off of the jet motion or it's two back showing outside zone.
Right. So we
force 17-year-old kids to think on the fly, man.
Right. So here it is. We weren't supposed to motion here. I have no idea why they did it. This is game one, brand new starters, but this should be double post wheel to the boundary, okay, off of more of a two-back outside zone action. But luckily when we motioned, they kicked it to the field, which was good for us. Always inside release at a number one, so then there you go. There's number two on the wheel, the back coming out of the backfield. So if you look at our wording up there, Bama's a post wheel, Tide is double post wheel. So I'm not sure why we motioned, but kids were pooping down their legs in the first game playing these dudes.
Well,
So
Coach, if they're going to kick the safeties, put it in the game plan.
I know, right? So this back right here, he should be the check down. So let me go to this one versus South Gwinnett. 1 second, sorry. X out of this so I can see. We did it versus South Gwinnett, and they played it well. Hold on, y'all. The screen's in my way. I ended up throwing a pick on it, but what should have happened here, and I know this isn't, so this is not the perfect one at all, but this is, so we did like what Coach was saying. We did this because they like to play a lot of press man, and we didn't think we could win on the jam. So we're just going to short motion the Z down to force the corner into outside leverage, which is what we wanted. Okay. Inside receiver gets held up, but he should be occupying the high safety. What happens, he didn't get off the ball. He played that right. Corner's playing his third, which is what he should have done. So now the wheel's covered. Well, this back here is looking at grass. So in our quarterback's mind, he's thinking inside post, outside post, wheel, and we always give him a check down. Well, this back right here who's blocking should be out here in the flats on the check down. So that's how we try to hide the scheme off of motion, and it didn't work. That's a way to show you guys a battle. And the wheel decided to run out of bounds right there. And the last one I'll show you guys off of a trick play. If you want to do the same thing but build it into a trick play, so you can tell versus this team, Central Gwinnett, we knew post wheel was a good scheme. So here's the same thing without bringing motion. Outside zone, the boundary, running the flea flicker, but then all we're doing is running post wheel. So once again, messing with the team who like to play a lot of 4-3 if those safeties walk down. And that's a look at us doing that off of a different action. But I'm
Keep
a
the
huge
concept the same and add a bunch of eye candy.
concept exactly the same. Post wheel check down to the quarterback, nothing changes. So I'm a big fan of post wheel, but like Coach was showing, I like bringing that shallow too. Not always phony motion in, just hard power action. We're putting power protection in this year. Do power protection to the field and bring that H on a shallow, and there's your check down. So post wheel, throw the H on the check down. It's just a different way to skin the cat, but really for the quarterback, in his mind, it's still the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah, Pete, I can share. Something off of that with the post wheel as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
The boundary. All right, let me share this. All right. So this is a Razorback for us. So we'll run. Arkansas will be our field throw. So we'll go post, dig, shallow. All right, we'll peek the tailback as he releases flat, and then up the sideline, and then we'll run Razorback to the boundary, which essentially is almost like the same thing like PJ just kind of showed with our post wheel. But also what I started doing, even though this is the base way we have it drawn up, is I will stem it like an inside stem release Z, all right, and then push him vertical. You get to the post, and what that does for us, and something that I had learned was, I think when I've learned that, I think it was something Neil Brown shared whenever I spoke at his clinic a couple of years ago. You release that Z inside, and then you get vertical in the post wheel. Not a lot of people were doing. You're getting that corner to clarify what he's going to do.
Yep.
Is he going to drop? Is he going to chase? What's he going to do? So that kind of helps, clears up the read, versus, too high what we're going to do. So, on Arkansas, we went, post dig shallow. Now we come Razorback. Now we just essentially cut the dig out of it. It's, going to go post wheel to our shallow, and it's going to be into the boundary. And a lot of times if I'm throwing, to the tailback, releasing into the boundary on this, it's a lot of times I'm throwing the ball to him, almost like a two ball scraping the paint off of his helmet, like at the line of scrimmage, just because it's happening so quick, and we want to throw it to him when he's open.
That we did something similar last year, where we weren't as comfortable using this. I mean, this is straight up Bobby Petrino stuff. I mean, that's he's always done a great job railing that tailback into the boundary and bringing the shallow behind it. We got to the point where we were combining spacing with shallow. So we would, similar thought process, trying to get it out quick, but we would put him on the spot route. We would work the snag route with him, rail the tailback, and then bring the shallow back across, typically from a grounded tight end. So we'd put tight end to the field, have twins to the boundary. And it was a good concept for us because we were able to essentially treat the wheel route as our initial read, or based on what we thought coverage-wise, sometimes we'd actually put his eyes on the snag first, and then we'd give him the check down, and the spot route was nothing but holding backers, and so you lose the explosive from the idea of putting the post route from the boundary, but it was an easy completion, we thought, for the quarterback, you put it right there in front of him and you give him easy reads. But that's another great way to do it, bringing the shallow from the field and especially bringing the tailback on the wheel out of the boundary, man. I love it.
This is, it's just like you said, it's old Petrino. There's a reason it's called Razorback. The signal is technically two hands above your head, like you're riding a motorcycle.
But you need to add a volleyball spike in there somewhere.
No pun intended. But really, this is, it is our boundary drag concept, and it's really, great against all coverages, because based on what they're doing, it's going to give you, 3 and 4 options. And what I like too is whenever you bring that, and sometimes you can play around with that A motion, and you can stack him on X, and you can motion the A inside, and then if you like the matchup that you have with that single receiver to the field, which usually X is your stud guy, and that's what we started doing is I would motion that guy in a little bit to see what they would do and kind of condense to the box. And then that would leave, this guy almost on an island because the safety's essentially going to have to bump in, with that in motion. And then I had a big body receiver out here. Well, that guy's going to play off because he doesn't want to get burned deep. Okay, so now we're going to go six-step speed out. So he's catching that thing at 10 yards for freaking first down. And now the hardest thing in football, he's got to make an open field tackle between him and the sideline. If he misses, then we're to the house. So
Yep. When you have a kid that has trouble throwing that long route, do you ever convert it to a slant or anything, make it a glance?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I kind of do too is like I'll let the quarterback, I'll let him, communicate that with the receiver. If it's something that he sees that's there. But I tell him like, hey, if you make that adjustment, you better be 100% right, because if you're wrong, I'm going to take it from you.
Yep.
So like I'm trying to make it easy for you. And I tell my guys, bore me with completions. I know a lot of people may not agree with that, but you bore me with a completion. Most of the time he's catching the ball at least at 4 yards, So if we're getting 4 yards, I'm happy we can live with it and we can get to the next play.
Yep.
Hey, Pete, I drew up something that we did to the field this year, but I think it'd be really good to the boundary.
Yeah, give it to me.
And I think it's something you were kind of hinting at earlier. Is this right here? Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, it's sharing.
Okay. So my thought with this right here, ground the tight end into the boundary, pushing the back to the boundary, and then just running a drive concept into the boundary, and then you have your backside post curl to give you something that if you don't have anything good coming here to the boundary, you can come back to your post curl. Is anybody doing anything like that?
I've not done that, but I've been looking at it. I know guys that do, like Trenton. I know Cameron does it. But like, because I've looked at the same thing, and instead of pushing the back at the field to the field, whether you switch with the seam read and the wheel by the tailback, like I think you just said y'all wheel the tailback, or even work like work the corner with like the slot option, or an out route by the back out of the backfield. I like that type of concept.
To me, it's a simple read. It's nothing. It's not hard for the quarterback to read, and it should be a very high completion percentage. We threw that to the field quite a bit and had a lot of success.
Yeah, so you would put trips into the boundary and then bring it back to the field?
Yeah, we would try to flip their nickel into the boundary.
Yeah.
So we would go 3-by-1 into the boundary, get their nickel to move, and flood the grass side.
I like that. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is kind of some of the stuff that I've been playing with, right? And it's drawn in the middle of the field, but you can put it to the boundary. And this is very similar to what Dub showed a minute ago. For us, we like to play in these compressed sets a good bit. And again, using the play action, also adding that shallow route or that cruise route. But one of the things last week that Travis Triggett talked about was, how they will run the cross, but then they'll also come back and run that spot route off the mic where they use that same release. And then as soon as they clear the mic, as he chases the shallow, they work the spot and come back down the ladder. And I've been kind of playing all week trying to figure out, is can you ask that kid to read that? Where if Mike's underneath, you carry it out. And if Mike disappears, you freaking stick your foot in the ground and settle in that grass. And which is the way that we teach a lot of kids on digs and things like that. But I don't, on that crossing route, I'm curious to see, and we don't have the normal summer we would have to experiment with a lot of the stuff, but I'm curious to kind of see how some of that will play out. Same deal. This is one that Ohio State used last year where they would just stretch into the boundary off of like a bash concept, again, to control the backers. and they would late release the sniffer, and so he would be built in. So you can keep your 6-man protection. You get him out late, which really he only becomes a factor if you have to gap escape. But you try to affect that backer, and then just traditional Y cross was the way that they've run it. Otherwise, the other one I've been looking at was pairing it with the Hoss or the slot fade, and bringing field from the boundary. I know a lot of people do it like that. And then even out of empty, going back to that idea of putting the cross with the shallow underneath it. So you give them the slot fade to the field, bring the shallow underneath to control the backers, and all he is a rush route. But you build in your rhythm side over here with your read route, and now your rush coming back across the other way. And then kind of one thing we like to do is we'll get in 3x1 and stack 2 and 3, and we'll work our RPO game, and we'll throw our keys out here to the stacked H. But we'll also work our quick game. We'll work Y stick, and we'll work 3-man snag with the W on the corner and Z on the snag, and do some different things. But now flooding back to the boundary again off of the play action, putting that shallow route right underneath the cross, and just being able to really almost operate off that weak side safety is treat the MOR as your rhythm route, read the cross here, and you give yourself releases on both sides with rush routes. And if you get pushed out to the field, you get that read dig that's looking to settle in grass. So those are kind of some of the things that I have been thinking about, as far as what it would look like in our system and the way that we structure things. Anybody take any of those type concepts and maybe, like anybody pair the slot fade with the Y cross? Because I like the idea of putting this into the boundary. I also, we're not a big empty team. We haven't been, but this makes sense to me. If we were going to install it this way with the back coming across and releasing weak, what's to prevent us here from just putting him in empty and bringing him across? So curious to hear if anybody's kind of gotten any similar schemes or thoughts on that kind of stuff.
Pete, I'll share with you kind of like my slot fade and what we do with bringing the guy across the middle of the field.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, this is Hoss. I'm sure a lot of you guys, Patriots run a crap ton of it.
Mm-hmm.
I really kind of got exposed to a whole new world of Hoss and different ways to run it this year. Where I was at in college and running, a pro style type system. But really with us is a lot of times with Hoss, it's going to be, rule base, outside guys are running the hitches, and next interior guy, he's going to run what we call a spray fade. And then out of empty, we'll be able to essentially, run the cross, or what we call a wahoo. So for us, we're going to read the boundary safety, on this. If the boundary safety comes off of the hash and take the spray fade, we're going to throw the wahoo. All right. If he sits and he takes the wahoo, our eyes go to the corner. If the corner drops, we bang the hitch. So we're going to read near side safety to corner. All right. If he takes the wahoo, if he comes off, all right, and takes this, then we're going to go. If the boundary safety takes the wahoo, now our eyes are going to go to the field safety, and we're going to see what he does. All right. So if the boundary safety takes the spray fade, then the field safety takes the wahoo. Now, the field spray fade, he's not going to spray fade and just run around. He's going to bend it, basically run it at the heels of the field safety. All right, because there's going to be nobody in the middle of the field, and it's just going to be an easier, straighter throw for the quarterback instead of him having to essentially drop it over his outside shoulder. And we can run this, really any down. If corners are playing off, we can bang a hitch and we can just, take a gift. We can do this in 3rd and long. We can also, tempo package this, and we'll run it out of 3x1 as well. So essentially, it just goes back to your rule base. Number 1 is running the hitch. Number 2 is running the spray fade. So here we're 3-by-1. So we will do this now. There was also what we would do is we would add terminology to it. So if we went, trips right instead of hoss, because you're essentially sending the tailback on the spray fade, we would say hosser, which anytime you added ER means that whoever's, that guy, he's going to run his route deeper. So in this case, X, instead of running the hitch, there's a way to illustrate or something on here in there.
Yeah, if you go up to the
Annotate.
top, view
Does that
options,
work?
annotate. Yep.
All right, so anytime that we would do that, so now he would run deep. Now, essentially, we would just run, 2 yards from the sideline, and we would sit down. So it's essentially the same thing. You're going to read the boundary safety. If he takes this, then we're going to go here.
Yep.
So it's really it's an easy read, for the quarterback. In this past season of college ball, you see so many different coverages, depending on down distance, the quarters, everything like that. You kind of, have a bunch of, split field reads, and then in high school, you kind of know either, what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. So it's going to be a little bit, in my opinion, it's going to be easier for me to teach my quarterback now, about running this, whether we're running 2-by-2, 3-by-1. Now I can't even control my own computer. All right, because then 2-by-2 you would have your base rules. Now the running back just runs a check down. That's the only time that you don't have the cross route.
Right.
But any 3-by-1, essentially you're getting a 3-by-2 look, or running it empty. You'll be able to get that. And I can't tell you how many times that you're banging that wahoo, and he is fighting like hell to get across the field as fast as humanly possible to 15 yards. There's no under 1, over 2, whatever. He's taking path of least resistance to get to the opposite hash at 15 yards.
Yeah, I like the way that. So with your number 2 to the field there, is he essentially reading the safety, right? It said grass read. So
yeah, let me share that with you again.
So like in this particular drawing, your A back or A receiver, right? If safety's in the middle of the field, he's going to work the spray release and he's going to occupy the seam. But if he gets a 2 safety look, he's going to go ahead and cross face. Is that how you would teach it?
He's only going to run the bend if that safety takes let's go annotate here. All right. So if we have strong safety, and we have free safety on this. All right. So if the strong comes off, takes the spray fade, corner squatting on this. If the free safety takes the wahoo, now he will bend and he will run that off the backside heels of the free safety.
Okay.
Because what we don't want to do is the quarterback having to throw a long ball over here into the corner when essentially he has nothing but grass and make it a straight direct throw down the middle of the field.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So, and that's why we're just really making it an easier throw for the quarterback to throw in a straight line head instead of having to turn his shoulders, throw an angle, and then us on a spray fade having to adjust with its inside shoulder, outside shoulder, anything like that. Because really, if the free safety takes this, all right, and we're able to bend, we want to take that throw because we don't want him to spray fade and then the corner drop off and we go to that throw. That's the only other guy that can cover it.
So, but if the safety stays on the hash, right, then he's going to go ahead and work the spray fade, and now we're just hoping that we're able to pop that Hoss route.
Yes, because if it's a too high look, all right, on this, all right, it doesn't matter who's where. But if he takes the spray fade on this, all right, and then now our read goes here, we're banging the wahoo.
Yep.
Because there's nobody else besides a mic drop. The only thing that could possibly hurt us on this, and our head coach is a defensive guy, so anytime we caught it, he'd make an auto check and call Tampa 2, and just be a straight cockwad. And so he would open up, Mike's trying to drop this, but as soon as we get on top of the mic, we're throwing the ball so that way we're catching it here, because essentially he's going to have to 360 and get in chase mode. So if we didn't throw that ball there, the free safety seen that the spray fade wasn't, he'd be able to come off.
Yep.
And go back to take that away.
Well, and leave this up if you don't mind. One of the things that I've long thought about, and some of you guys tell me what you think. I mean, I'd love to be Mike Leach and just keep calling 6 and run 4 verts all day long. But the reality is, even when I'm getting, a single high safety and we're getting cover 3, we can attack the seams, but the outside, it's just wasted, right? So, like, I have considered something very similar to this, Coach, where now I'm putting him on the seam read, where instead of working the spray fade, he's either up the hash or crossing face. But now instead of staying vertical on the outside, go ahead, give him the hitch, and we tell him if you turn around and the ball's not out, they're going to come hunt for grass anyway. I don't see, and for anybody on here that just loves 4 verts, I mean, what are you losing if you approach it like this? Whether you do it from empty or you do it from a 3x1 where you're going to protect and then distribute out to the flat or distribute over the ball. Like what are you losing replacing 4 verts with this? How many of you actually throw 4 verts and hit number 1 to the field? I guess is my question.
I have. I do not anticipate that in the coming year, or maybe next year, because the kid is 6'3" and he's going to probably be 185, 190 by the time he graduates. But this year coming up, he's not. But, the threat of that, the threat of throwing that, I think you have to keep it alive personally if you're going to throw 4 verts, because then your corner is going to play in between 1 and 2. So if you're never pressing those numbers, if you're never attacking those numbers, you can't throw that hash throw, in my opinion, because that corner gets involved and he's raking over top or he's playing underneath of that vertical, and you might as well trash it. So we've got to at least try to hold him, in my opinion, either by running a comeback or doing something to hold him on those numbers to occupy him. That's just my opinion on it, because, I mean, I want to throw that hash throw of the bender in between the 2 safeties as much as possible. And I'm going to hold the flat player opposite of what you're doing here. I'm going to actually push him to the field side so I can try to occupy either the corner if it's cover 2, the nickel if it's quarters, or cover 3, something along those lines. But I think a comeback by 1 is a better option personally.
And everything you're saying makes sense to me, Trenton. I just feel like I don't ever hit it. Like, for me, I'm better reducing the split a little bit, working, a corner or a spray fade, and essentially building in off of our snag look, a switch route right there. It is better for me, but we're not lining up and calling 6. And when we are, we're more likely to get it into the boundary and throw the vertical than we are to throw the outside to the field.
Why not just switch 1 and 2? So
right.
we number 2 and then have the 1 come up the hash, just replace those.
Well, and that's all of our 3x1 stuff the past 2 years. That's been how we've run it when we've run our 4 verts, and we put him on the bottom of the numbers, and he's looking to snap it off if he gets capped. So that's 100% how we've done it. I guess, where we get in trouble, I guess, is when we get pushed this way out of the pocket. We sometimes struggle to get to this, where I'm wondering if something shorter gives him a better release on that side.
Well, so if you put either shallow to the field or the back to the field, then you got something in your quarterback's face.
For sure.
Somebody was mentioning Tampa 2 earlier. I think the best way to accomplish the exact same thought of what we've got on the screen right here is going sluggo. So putting number 3 on a curl over ball and then sluggoing number 1 from the boundary.
So you're saying there and then there?
Yeah. And it's the exact same read.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
And try and control the mic to keep him from lifting and getting to the middle of the field.
Right. Yeah. If he doesn't, I mean, if he's going to truly take, play Tampa 2 and not respect the curl of the ball, well, then you get 7 yards and move on.
Yeah, that's just kind of what you're talking about right there. That's, for me, that's a high red zone, basically snag adjustment.
Mhm.
All right, what we call jacket, him turn, show hands and eyes to the quarterback, stick his foot in the ground, and then break for grass in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and it is a great high red zone call. I'm 100% on board with you there, Coach. Awesome. Anybody got anything else as far as whether it's boundary flood or just something that kind of fits into the conversation?
Well, Pete, I just drew something up on my board because just hearing everybody and trying to make sense of this stuff, the boundary flood stuff. I think you could go 4-vert switch out of 2x2 and tag a Y cross. I think that could really give you something nice. I mean, you're accomplishing the exact same grass, attacking the exact same grass, but going about it different ways. You could call smash to the boundary. You could call your standard vertical fade out, and then you could call vertical switch. I think all three of those get the exact same accomplished, but attack the defense differently.
So we're saying, and I'm just going to draw it in here because it's quick, but so you're saying working something like a switch route here into the boundary.
Yep.
Bring in the cross from the field, whatever you do with your backside, and then,
in order to get the exact same look from my quarterback, I'd push the back or release the back left.
Yep.
But then he would go just vertical 1 to the flat to the cross.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. Like if you called smash to the boundary here, the quarterback, it's the exact same thing.
So we'll do our way of doing that is more likely to be from 3x1. I like it out of 2x2. We're more likely to do it from 3x1. And if we're going to do it from 3x1, it's going to be with the back on the rail. And then we're going to, instead of cross, which cross makes sense, but we would pair it with the drive now and give them that, So for us, if you're talking a one high safety look in particular, we would rhythm the seam route, read the wheel, and rush the shallow in our terminology. If it's too high, we're more likely to treat a little bit differently. And now we're basically too high. We're expecting this seam route who's got to carry the safety to be locked in. So we would rhythm the wheel route, read this dig on the, and rush that shallow and the drive concept. But I'm with you on that, Trenton. I think that's good. I know something I've seen some guys doing a little bit lately, kind of a similar deal that's intrigued me a little bit has been I've seen some teams that are basically running, so they're running wrong button, almost running like a post right here, rhythm post. They're going to push him inside to the backers, and they're going to wheel him. And then, what they're doing is they're bringing this snag route is working back outside, and now they're working that cross, and excuse my crappy drawing, but they're working that cross now from the field. It is another way of getting into kind of the same deal, but they add that grab route again. It's all about, you're not throwing it to this guy. It's all about just getting the backer out of there to open up that window again for the crossing route. And if you're playing a too high team, you occupy the safety, you occupy the corner. It's just, now you're creating that window for the cross. So that's another thing that I've been looking at.
Because we run Y cross with the smash on the backside, Y cross with the out on the backside, and we try to do the switch thing. And here was the problem: the crosser and the switcher were getting to that same 12 to 15 yard area.
Same time.
It got real muddled for the both of them, and one guy could end up covering. Now, yours may be different. You may have faster guys. It's going to clean up easier for you. But when we tried to do it, and we did it in practice about 5 times, and me and the receiver coach looked at each other and go, "This jacked up."
Yeah.
And we just went back to running smash and fast and out into the boundary. But
that's my exact fear, Wes. That exact same thing.
Coach, we have pretty fast guys, and it was an issue for us too.
Yep. And that makes sense to me. I've even wondered, I'm all about when you have a chance to kind of blend concepts. I'm all about, like, I'm not afraid to run traditional Y stick into the boundary, but so here I'm running obviously to my X, but what happens now if I work something like this? If we, the MOR is strictly a man read, right? But now work your rhythm off of this backer or whoever the flat defender is, and you've got traditional horizontal stretch into the boundary, but you're in theory doing enough to now control and open up the cross route behind it. From a timing purpose, I don't know what it looks like. And I do think that this action allows the mic to carry that crossing route too. So I don't know how much I like it, but I've, again, just kind of spitballing of blending concepts and creating easy reach for the quarterback. Anybody ever done anything like that? All right. I'm the only one. That's usually the case in my life. It's just me. I'm used to it.
Now, what you were talking about earlier, as far as bringing, bringing a crosser, running the climb route, and then having someone basically run a whip route. I'll do something like that out of 3x1, but it'll be a sprint out concept.
Makes sense.
So I don't know if y'all want to peek that or not.
Yeah, if you want to show it, Coach, I'm here for it.
I mean, I know we're talking about boundary stuff, and or we were supposed to be, anyways.
It's all good. Show it to the field.
All right, so this is just one of my sprint outs off of this. So it's essentially off of a flood, kind of a flood smash type of deal for us. So X is he's the most inside receiver backside, so he's going to run the climb. So we're going to look flat corner, but Z he's going to run his 5-yard snag. All right, and then at 45 he'll angle and he'll replace the feet of A, who's the point man, because my number 2 will always be in the ball out of trips, and then he'll work back outside, flat with the quarterback, essentially, staying directly, right there in his vision. Now, I don't have it in there as X being a 4th read, but X is our 4th read.
Right.
Because if they, want to roll down the trips, we know that, yes, we essentially want to always, throw away from, where they roll. But if they're rolling down into where we're rolling to, then, we need to be able to hit that crosser, coming across the field, which has been done, as, defense wants to flow with us and be able to roll.
Yeah. It's, have you ever run it into the boundary?
That's the only thing with, is because of, how wide the hashes are.
That's
what I mean?
That's my thing. If I'm in Texas, if I'm Wes, I'm running this into the boundary. It's just so damn hard on most high school hashes.
Because my receiver coached in Louisiana for a long time, and we were talking about that today. Just those 2 or 3 extra yards y'all make the middle of the field so much easier.
Yes.
But the 2 or 3 yards we get make the boundary so much easier.
Yep.
And we were just talking about, well, which one had you rather have?
Well, so Wes has shared on here before an RPO that he runs where they'll read the backside in, but then build the flood on the outside of it. And shared some clips with me. And my favorite one, Russ, is where you're backed up on like the -3 and you run it and the quarterback pulls it and throws the flood into the boundary on the RPO, and it spits for like 20 yards. And if the kid doesn't step out of bounds, he either gets hawked down and made fun of on Monday, or it's a touchdown for 97 yards, But I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I'm like, man, it's like, that's ballsy. And then I'm thinking, well, it's ballsy in Georgia and it doesn't make sense in Georgia, but those 3 yards make that much of a difference where you can do that into the boundary and it makes more sense. So that's good stuff though, Coach. I know, there's so many guys now that do things where they, 3x1, where they'll have the gift route into the boundary, and if it's not there, then it activates into sprint out to the field. And I love that stuff. I think it makes a ton of sense. I would love to see somebody put the gift to the field and sprint to the boundary. When you're playing with college hashes, especially against like a 4-2-5, like Wes was saying earlier, like you like it specifically. Like there's a reason you go FTB against 4-2-5 defenses that want to beat 2 high coverage, And so for the same purpose, I would love to see you be able to build those floods into the boundary on sprint out for that same reason. So
now the only time that I've really, a 2x2 surface, I'll sprint out to the boundary. But anytime 3x1, I'll put the trips to the field, and I will do a sprint out to the boundary to the single side receiver.
Work like a comeback.
Yeah, essentially he's going to run that Cali route, where he's, releasing and, running that comeback. And then if he's got him beat, then we're just going to take a shot over the top. And if he releases and takes him deep and there's nobody there for you, then we're going to go. And we'll do that, releasing the quarterback with no running back protection on that sprint.
Yeah. I will say when John Ford, for you Georgia guys, when he was at Roswell, and I don't know if he got it from Bruce, I don't know, but he would get in 3x1 and he would sprint out to the single receiver into the boundary and throw that comeback. And if you weren't clouding and keeping the safety on the weak hash, you were getting it 2 or 3 times a game. And it's one of those things that if you believe in full field progressions, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, because you're not just cutting the field in half, you're literally isolating one player, But I mean, whether they want to press you or not, man, it's so much of what defenses want to do is protect the field and protect the grass. It is a great way to attack if they want to take that weak safety off the hash, especially. So, anybody got anything else, fellas? Man, I appreciate y'all. I've got some good notes written down, and I'm gonna go back and rewatch this in the morning and take some more notes. And BJ, you're probably going to hear from me anyway, because I want to talk to you about your Baltimore protection some more. Guys, I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. You guys are always welcome back. We'll be back next Monday. Don't have a topic necessarily written down right now, so if anybody's got a good one, hit me up, and we'll make it happen.
Hey, PJ, my bad, man. I'm just now seeing your message over here on the side about the 5-man protection on Razorback. But yes, we will 5-man pass pro on Razorback.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because he's the tailback is the second read in the progression.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I might let Pete, if Pete will let me in the secrets. I want to talk to you about your 5-man a little bit, because we're going to that a lot, and I think I have my head wrapped around it, but I'd love to hear how you do it and make sure you're protected.
Let's how about
Monday?
Yeah, I was going to say next Monday. Let's talk 5-man protection. Is everybody down for that?
Yep.
Love it.
Well, let's write it down and let's talk 5-man pass pro, and look at just different variations and different things that you do, and maybe things you've done in the past. And I'm curious on that as well, man, because I've done it a couple different ways, and I still can't decide. I like what we do because it's simple and it fits all of our other rules, but it puts stuff on the quarterback. Where there's been times where I've been more complicated in the past, and Sometimes it's good and sometimes it isn't. So, yeah, that's PJ. Good looking out there, man. We'll talk 5-man pass pro next week, and maybe kind of talk about, not necessarily building out the full concept, but in my opinion, when we talk 5-man pass pro, you have to talk about what are those hot routes, what are those releases you're building in for the quarterback, and how he's setting his eyes. So I love it, fellas. We'll do it next week. And, man, I appreciate y'all. I really do.
Thanks, Pete.
So take care, fellas.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah.